See, please. Great. It is 6:02. This is Robert Stevenson. I'm going to call to order the Suffolk County Granville Regional School District School Committee meeting for tonight, the 10th of January, 2023. Happy New Year to everybody. Can I get everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And because I went so quick, can I get a motion to open the meeting?
So moved. Second.
Can I get a show of hands for everybody who can enter the meeting? Aaron, let the record show the motion passes 7-0-0. See if I can do everything else in correct order here tonight. Secretary's report in your packet. We have the minutes from the last meeting on December the 20th. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes?
Second.
Do you have any questions on these minutes? Can I get a show of hands to accept the minutes? Okay, Aaron, let the record show the motion passes 6-0-1, but Pat abstaining. There's some warrants going around here. If everybody can take care of those before the evening's over, it'd be great. Superintendent Willard, do we have any correspondence this evening?
Do not have any.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so it brings us to our first public comment section. If anybody is here that would like to make a public comment, just raise your hand, let me know. We'll recognize you. You're here to present a reward though, correct?
Correct.
Okay, hold on one second. We've got you in the agenda.
Oh, super.
So if anybody has anything for public comment, Vaughn. So first thing up, we have, oh, hang on, student advisory report. I don't want to skip that. What do we got?
All right, so school is back in session and we are nearing the end of the semester. We are taking finals this year. So
You
exciting.
don't sound so excited.
Just for you, for your senior year.
Yay.
And auditions for the Southern Regional Musical Threat will be concluded this Monday. And they're starting practice tomorrow and it shall be open March 23rd to 27th. So there's a lot in sports this week. Girls basketball had a very exciting game against Paul Francis last night. And boys basketball has a game today against Ware. Girls basketball has another home game Thursday. Hockey has a game Wednesday and Saturday, and wrestling has matches on Wednesday and Saturday. And then indoor track's going to Smith College Sunday for a meet. Also in the high school, senior superlatives came out from the yearbook, and I thought I'd share some of my personal favorite categories that were up for voting. So we had soccer mom and baseball dad, dynamic duo, gym rats, most likely to win the lottery but lose the ticket. Class athlete, most likely to make you smile, best to bring home to parents, and most likely to sleep through an earthquake. And seniors are continuing to receive some of their college acceptances for those who applied early actions.
Fantastic.
Very nice.
Thank you very much. All right, so now our educational presentation tonight, we have a student award presented by the VFW, the Patriots Pen Essay Contest.
Good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Troy Henke. I'm currently serving as a state judge advocate for the Veterans of Foreign Wars. I'm also the post chairman for the VFW post here in Southwood. That means I chair all the programs, pretty much except for the Bloody Poppies. Those are mine. Of course, one of our programs is our 2 essay contests every year. Voice of Democracy for grades 9 through 12 and Patriots Pen for grades 6, 7, and 8. And Leo Dennis has returned this year. He was a winner last year and he's also a winner again this year. Now we have a 100-point scale that we judge these essays on. And out of 100 points, he scored 76. Now that's second place. First place winner scored 76.6. That's how close it was. That's close. Okay. But again, this is the first time we've ever actually had a return contestant. But I got word today. See, sometimes the post doesn't necessarily jive with the district and the state. You won second place with us, but you won third place at district as well. I just got word on that today. So Franklin, Hampshire, and Hampton counties, that's our district. So he'll have another prize check and the certificate at our district award ceremony at the end of February. So I just want to congratulate you on that and present you with your winnings of $75 this year.
Thank you for always sending that to me at the beginning of every year so that I can pass it out to our building principal. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask, what is the PED essay?
Sure, Matrix Pet Essay Contest is just what's out. It's an essay contest. Every year there's a different theme. This year was for the Patriots Pen Contest, My Pledge to Our Veterans. That was the theme. You have a word count, yes, and it's judged on how the student progresses with the topic, and there's a whole litany of judging, and then the Voice of Democracy kind of went on that as well. It was, why is the veterans so important? That was the Voice of Democracy theme. Voice of Democracy is a little different because unlike the Patriots Pen, which is a pure essay contest, Voice of Democracy is an essay and a recorded piece of work. So the student actually has to record their work and submit it to us. So there's a presentation aspect of that as well. And you progress. Unfortunately, you only progress, like if you win first place past district, first place up district of the state, and then state on to national. But the top prize at national is $30,000. So keep coming back, man. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, so we're on to policies. Oh.
Hold on, one second.
Right.
Sure,
Yeah.
you came all the way to the meeting. You may as
Let's do
well-
a picture, which one? You want to get in?
Sure, why not?
Left my phone in the car.
Okay.
Aaron's gonna take a picture, we'll be able to get that to you.
Okay.
You're not from the screen.
You wanna join us, Jen, it's just me or? Right, next year, they gotta get you one of those great big 6-foot checks. Thank you,
All right.
thank you very much.
Congratulations. You have her cell phone number? You wanted a copy? We can.
Yeah.
I forgot.
We probably have an email or a phone somewhere, right?
Laughing at, because I'm 44 years old. What even?
All
All
right,
right, what's next?
let's see. All right, on next right now. And right now is our second student advisory report. Like an updated version of what's going on,
Where was?
who's dating who, and what's new. You volunteered for this spot, remember that? Okay, policies. We don't have anything for everybody tonight. Your meeting, I believe, next Thursday, correct? Or 2 weeks from Thursday, because next week I'm gonna be away too, so. Not in a sunny place, I'll be in Chicago, probably freezing, but
Sorry.
I know, sorry. Okay, action items.
Sure. Move to approve the following fundraiser for the 22-23 school year. Freshman, sophomore school dance class of 2025 fundraiser recommended.
So moved.
Anybody have any questions on this?
So I did. Is this the one that is at Roma? Is that what I was seeing?
It says it on there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, does it say on there like what they were planning to charge for ticket prices?
That's
And what it includes? Like if it's at Roma, is this including a dinner? Do we know anything about that?
It's on January 29th. That's a day of fundraising activity, 129.
Do the students
Right.
know about?
So like
I don't know, my kids aren't up there.
the students hear rumors about it, but they're awaiting more information.
Well, maybe because they're waiting.
And needed to be approved, but I just didn't know if, there's anything else about that that we know about.
I know. Like if you email Pam Mahoney. I'm sure once it gets approved, information will be coming out.
Right.
This is something they did last year too, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
Yes. They did.
No.
something-
No.
They did a prom
They
at
did
Rome.
prom at Rome.
Younger.
I think of one has been, I've never seen that.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Can I get a show of hands to approve the motion? Aaron, let the record show the motion passes 700.
Move to approve home education plan HS 22-23-65 recommended.
So moved.
Second.
Any any questions on this?
Is this just a new application that we just scattered throughout the course?
So it has been homeschooled all along.
Yeah. Probably, yeah. We have, yeah.
Can I get a show of hands to accept the motion? Aaron, let the record show the motion passes 7-0-0.
A move to approve funding of the athletic grounds assessment, phases 1 through 6, recommended.
So moved.
Anybody have any questions on this?
So I remember in our last meeting, we talked about how there were certain stop gaps and we could pay certain sections at a time.
Yep.
So we're approving all of it, but we're not paying all of it right now.
That's
Is
correct.
that correct?
Basically, what we're looking to do is approve the process to be able to be funded.
Mhm.
And what'll happen is we'll get the first 3 done, then it's gonna be an assessment either by buildings and grounds or buildings and grounds and finance subcommittee. We're gonna look at it where if it makes sense to go on to phase 4, that way we don't need to bring it back to the school committee. It isn't just gonna be, okay, here's the check, go and do all 6. We've got a couple spots along the way that we're gonna stop and check, and the 6 is the last one, which will be the presentation, so.
And which group is responsible for kind of reviewing it at those benchmarks and determining whether we move on?
Don't know, it's a good question.
Buildings and grounds.
And finance though, because.
Oh, I don't know, I think
No.
probably just building the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the entire committee does not approve each phase, the entire committee just approves and then it's up to buildings and grounds subcommittee to.
No, I think they would bring it to all of you.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there'll be, once that comes in. There'll be a report back to us as to what's going on. I mean, if we get to a point where we get a report back.
Mhm.
And they're saying that they're worried about something, if we need to make a motion to sort of stop the process, that's something that we can entertain at any time.
Mhm.
As a committee. That way, at least with this approval, it just green lights it so that from a financial perspective, we've got the green light to move forward.
Mhm.
It's not without checks and balances of the way it's set up, so. As opposed to green lighting certain portions, which then could then delay the process depending on what our meeting schedule
Got it.
is. I thought this might be the simpler way to do it, since we've got some built-in sort of stop signs along the way to double check what's going on. Any, Clay, what you everything to add to that?
Well, that's why you structured the proposal.
Yeah. Yeah, he wanted to give us sort of some flexibility so that we could do it.
Sounds good, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Can I get a show of hands to accept the motion? Aaron, let the record show the motion passes 7-0-0. Great, Superintendent Willard.
So tonight I'm doing my update on goals. I like to do it in January because it's about mid-year. And just kind of let you know where we are. So the literacy initiative, as you know, we're in year 2. We have just we have a monthly principals meeting, which is with Hill for Literacy, myself, Jenny Sullivan, Robin Gunn, and the building principals, and we kind of get training on the module before the teachers get the module around the science of reading. But the big thing that we just finished was our walkthrough form, so that as we're walking through the classrooms, we can look at the 5 components of the science of reading. And we can look for evidence and then take the data back and talk about what we're seeing and have discussions amongst ourselves of what we're not seeing. And it's all based on the science of reading. It was a lot of work, but it's taken a year and a half to get to the place where we actually have the walkthrough form. And also middle of the year tests are going on right now as well. So that's kind of where we are. So hopefully we'll have some mid-year data to present out at the end of February or early March.
You know, when you guys walk through, you go through every classroom.
And did you just say that you guys get trained on it before the teachers do? Like, the rest of the committee should just know how amazing that is, that the administrators are going through it first. That doesn't happen in all districts. And it gives the administrators much more insight in terms of to know whether or not something is working.
It's really fascinating professional.
Well, they don't, so other places, how do they as administrators assess whether the program is being implemented correctly if they don't know what the program's about?
Often relying on test data,
Mhm.
but if
Nice.
you have a greater understanding.
Okay.
If you've actually been through the training yourself, but
Pretty fascinating,
I just have to.
That
commit.
conscious decision that we've made,
yes.
make sure we do that, are we doing that with all of our
We started
programs?
it with our math initiative and teachers liked it, the principals liked it, so it was how Jenny set up the.
Yeah, how do you hold them accountable if you really don't know what you're gauging or
Right.
assessing? Because if you're looking at test scores, you only know after the fact, oops, we didn't do a good job this year.
But you just have more valuable conversations as an evaluator if you've truly been trained in the philosophical shifts. And I just, I commend the administration. That's an excellent way to set it up.
Yeah, I could do one with
I
you
would
right
assume,
now.
I would assume that's.
You want to- No, you.
Sure.
So, I learned this way, there's 44 sounds, I didn't know that, so there's 44 sounds.
Me, right?
Yeah. So, and there's also airflow, when you make sounds, and it shows kids like where their airflow is coming from. So we're all on Zoom when we do this, so we're sitting in our room, and thank goodness I'm on mute. But one of the things they said was, say the word him.
Him.
Him. Now hold your nose and say the word him.
Yeah.
See how it sounds different, because the
Yeah.
airflow is coming through your nose. Now say the word hit.
Hit.
Now hold your nose. Say
Hit.
hit. It sounds exactly the same because the airflow is coming through your mouth and not your nose. So we learn like these things, so if we can help students like identify where their the sounds are coming from and where to focus. Their mouths, their tongues, where their airflow should be focused on to help them make sounds. And a lot of, we always thought, even I as a teacher growing up, that kids mistake the P and the B because they look alike, but they're just the B's up here and the P's down here, but it's not, it's the B and the, it's all about your tongue. And so a lot of times it takes kids a long time to really hear the difference between the P and the B. Because your mouth is doing the same thing when you're making it. So we're just, it's really fascinating. It's really interesting. I mean, I've been in education 29 years and I walk away from these meetings completely just like stuff I didn't know. And I didn't know that. Right, like how did I not know that? How did I teach reading before?
So you would assume then if the hearing part of that, what you just said, the pun, but
Yeah,
it would make it infinitesimally more difficult if the kids can't see the teacher actually doing that as well, correct?
correct. That's why the masking was so difficult with the kids when they were doing the sounds.
Yeah. So they couldn't see the teacher do it, they couldn't see their colleagues do it.
To get in speech, they still have to wear masks in my house. Tell me how the hell they supposed to teach him. I mean, he does fine, but
It's interesting.
yeah.
It's really, it's super fascinating. If you ever want to.
Yeah, that's not coming up.
It's called the science of
Yeah,
reading.
Just,
But it also talks about how the brain, they now understand how the brain learns how to read, and I can't do it, but they have like the brain, and Jenny will explain it, it goes from here to here, and that's why. Orthographic mapping is what it's called, and it's just quite fascinating, that's all I have to say, that there's really a scientific way that kids learn to read and the connections that it makes in their brains. So,
so you're gonna bring Jenny in to show us the connection.
yeah, well, I could bring help from literacy, and make it- I mean, it's pretty intensive,
You're on,
yeah.
I did all neuroanatomy inside.
Yeah, so it's
It's
fascinating.
awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
It's incredible how everything goes.
The next one is about creating the goals to support in real time. So we're just starting to collect the mid-year data. I met with all the principals at the beginning of the year, looked at the beginning of the year data. And so we're gonna be looking at mid-year data when it comes in. We're gonna look at the progress, set targeted goals, and actually have like those real difficult conversations. Because with the science of reading, we have to do what we call progress monitor. And so if kids aren't making benchmark, teachers have to do what we call a tier 2 under the MTSS, which is they have to pull them into small groups in their regular class time and provide additional instruction. And then they check in with them more frequently, see if they're closing the gap. They don't wait as long as just beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year. So it's called the progress monitor. So we're going to look at that. But we're constantly talking about how to keep the momentum, how to use the data to inform instruction. And that is a big shift for our district, is really using data to inform instruction. The next one is about the soliciting the feedback on the district strategic plan. I did finish my listening sessions. The two main changes that are going to be happening to our district strategic plan are not actually content, but it's how we're going to organize it. So one of the pieces of feedback that we had is I just put the core values in alphabetical order. But one of the parents had a really great idea, and they said, since scholarship is what we strive for in the school district, and the other 4 core values are really all the components that you need in order to achieve scholarship, kind of design it as scholarship on here, and then the other core values, like as vertically supporting scholarship.
Like pillars.
Yeah, like the pillars to get to the scholarship. So I thought that was a really good visual way to change it without really changing, but I'm a visual person, love that idea. And then to really highlight community in our mission statement, bold it, and to just elaborate a little bit more about how it takes like everybody, the whole community, to educate our kids. So those are the 2 big pieces that we walked away from with that. The policy work, as you all know, we're currently working on that. We were going to start the procedure manual over vacation, of course, great plans. So I'm going to be starting the policy manual, the school committee is working on, procedure manual I am working on. We do have some procedures, but I have to start organizing it, and then was it at our last- where did we talk about this? Oh, no, I think we talked about it at our COAT meeting. We were talking about having a procedure manual, but also taking the procedures and putting them behind the policy, even though, so that they would be in the policy book, but they wouldn't be policy.
As
So that
references.
they would have the reference right there, so if people were
Great
looking for it,
idea.
they wouldn't have to go looking for it. So we would write procedure. But so that it's right there in the policy book, so people would not have to go searching for it. That was Erin's idea. So that's another thing that we're going to do when we update the policy manuals, put the procedures right in there as well.
But
And I
then when
think
we,
that-
when we update those, they're going to be. Are we gonna be up, once we get them all updated, isn't the plan to have them sort of where they're on the website, but they're on they're through MASC's. The Sprint, so we're gonna have to give them those procedures in order to add them in there, because they won't, I don't think they're gonna automatically show up there, right?
I'll ask Liz. Yeah, even if we do it internally.
Because if
on
you
our
go to
own.
one of the districts that uses you can tell the ones that use the MSC website, because you go onto the policy board and it's
Yeah,
the
they
same
are.
thing. Then you click and click and click, and they're all right there. I think we're gonna, if we wanna add extra sheets, we'll have to let them know, and they can,
Insert 'em.
it's just a PDF, they'll just slide.
Right.
Right, Erica? Yeah, I know, slide them in behind, it's all good.
Then our
They'll
last
use an
one-
email, they'll use email and send it out to everybody.
And then our last one is just the creating a safe environment. And we had a 2 PD session with the Anti-Defamation League. It was really, really good. I would love to provide it for the school committee. So that you get the same information that we're getting, because a lot of times people are like, what are they learning there? Like, what are they hearing about and stuff? So I would love to find a time that works, and the ADL wants to come, and they'll do a lot of the same activities and workshops that they did for us. And it was really good. So that we finished ours up, and so the only other part of my goal is to find a time that works for the school committee. We could do it as a workshop,
Yeah, that way it's-
and we could even maybe do it this summer, at our PD, at our summer retreat, but find a time that works. And they had some really interesting activities that we did, and I won't tell you any more about them because
Don't give away.
I know, I can't,
No.
because I got snagged up in one of them, and it was fast, it was just very interesting,
So
so.
this is the same group that trains the connections kids at the
They
regional school,
are,
correct?
yes, yes.
So when you say we just finished our PD, you're referring to the administrative team?
Yes, so we had all of the admin and all of the, like, Eric Wykander, Matt Lillibridge, Garland Green, like, everybody. participate.
They're in this district's cap. Just to say.
That we're including them.
Just, there are some benefits that come with being a small school district. And the kind of everybody being on the same page kind of thing, everybody receiving the same training. It goes a long way.
Right. And the main core of our equity work that we do, like if people say, like, so what is the equity work? Our main core piece, the core piece of equity work is really about giving all kids access to instruction. That's what the equity work is. And you know, it's great, and like when people just talk about all these other things, but if all kids aren't having access to the same instructions, then no matter what else you're doing, it's not equitable. So the main equity work that we really focus on is by providing the science of reading and making sure all of our teachers are providing consistent instruction, by looking at benchmark data, by that this is equity work. This is equity work. Like the majority of what we're doing in here is the equity work. So I just, even I didn't really realize, like, because in Massachusetts, we do have the common standards, we do so much with data, we do have the early literacy screeners, like we do so much about equity and making sure, and by having tiered focus monitoring, the state coming in and looking at who has access to AP and all of these other things, that we are so far above other states when it comes to equity. One of my workshops that I'm in, I'm with people all over the state, I mean, all over the country. And we have some people from Mississippi, and he's just trying to have all kids have access to AP classes. And it's fascinating. I'm like, oh, you kids can't take an AP? He's like, no. And I'm like, fascinating. So we are blessed to be in Massachusetts, our kids are, because there's nothing standing in our kids' way when it comes to, if they want to try something, they can try something here. And there's really no roadblocks for them. So
What could be a roadblock for a kid not being able to take an AP class?
sometimes you used to, years ago, even in Massachusetts, you used to have a teacher recommendation. You still have to have like a prerequisite, like you can't just go take AP Calc without having
Certain.
something more. You can't just say, I'm going from algebra 1 to AP Calc, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
But that's not what I mean by a prerequisite, like,
Mhm.
but you used to have like a teacher recommendation
Yeah,
or
yeah,
that
yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes kids are just like, no, I want to try it. And we also talked about what success means in an AP class. And for some kids, it's literally just making it through the class.
Yeah.
And it's okay that they got to see, because they have access now to what college level work is like. And for some kids, okay, I made it through an AP class. For some kids, it's getting the 5 on the AP score.
Right.
That's where they are.
Everybody learns at their own level.
Yeah, right, but, you know, I would never want one of our children in our district to say, I wanted to try something and I couldn't. I want them all to take those risks and to put supports in place so that they try and they succeed, and their success is what they make of their success.
Yeah.
It's not what we have to determine what it is.
Right.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Sorry. for the
Mr. Connor.
interrupted.
Good
Yeah,
evening, everyone.
You have an update for us tonight? Quick one?
I do. It's going to be very quick. We have a finance subcommittee meeting scheduled for the 24th at 4:30. It's in the last item in your packet. We have 2 other tentative dates. As you all are aware, we are now in budget season. And I hope that at that first finance subcommittee meeting, I'll have some cold hard facts for you. They're not in great abundance. And the superintendent and I have had a lot of conversations. We're trying to gather the best data we can to figure out where we are for the FY24 budget. And we're not getting a lot of help.
So the most important meeting of the year did not turn into the meeting that gave you like tangible, hard things that you could go and pull data from.
Let's characterize it as I have pursued refinement of the data from that meeting. And right now we have one of the Mars people that was on that training looking at the budget worksheet that I worked up along with the superintendent. And I'm waiting to hear from him. from them, and even they have to approximate as best they can.
Have we heard anything on when the cherry sheet's coming out from the new governor?
I did. Early March,
Yes.
I did,
Awesome.
And they're usually out in December.
January,
Usually the week, actually, usually the next week, right?
yeah, next week.
Yeah.
I do know that, I was with a group of superintendents last Friday and, Mohawk Trail, is very similar to us. They have to have theirs done by March 15th.
Yeah.
And they just wrote a letter and just said, you know, we don't want to waste your time and we're not gonna waste our time. We want to give you real numbers. So she's like, we just have our, stuff worked up, but we're not gonna do an actual presentation until we have real numbers to talk to people with. She's like, because what if this is what they're saying and then it's here? What if this is what we're saying and it's here? Like, either here, they're gonna be upset that we're here, and if it's here, they're gonna be upset if we ask for more money. So she's like, you're kind of like in that no-win situation right now, so.
So do we typically do our budget roundtable meeting in March?
November.
Or, I mean, not that, our budget presentation. in
Yes,
March.
yes.
Okay,
Usually before we-
and when is the first town meeting?
May.
May,
First week of May.
okay,
But
so,
the finance committees from the towns want that information
well,
early before that meeting.
Right.
And for a regional agreement, we have to have it submitted by April 1st.
April 1st, okay, all right. Which is tough, it's gonna be especially
It's gonna
tough
be a
this
tough
year.
one.
The direction that I received from the superintendent is very conservative, careful things, and that is the main framework that I'm approaching, because it's smart.
Yeah.
Because if we go that way and we suddenly find out our new governor has decided to, bring Christmas 2024 early, great, but you can't plan.
Something, sorry.
You
No,
cannot plan for that. So that's what I can tell you. That's my report for tonight. Happy to answer any other questions.
Figured out we'll start it in 2 weeks.
I'm hoping
We've
there's a better data by then.
That's good. Great, well, super, thank you so much. All right, subcommittees, we got anything from, do we even have to negotiate anything anywhere right now? Or no negotiations. Finance, we're gonna meet on the 24th. Erica, anything from the collaborative?
I have a meeting.
Okay. I don't know when the next meeting is from our end. We only have, I think, once a quarter on the corporation side. Policy, we are meeting. next-
Yes, but I do have to take some time now to update the committee on some things in our last policy subcommittee
Okay.
meeting. You were not there, so
Yeah.
it was just Pat and I. We had some interesting discussions that we feel need to be brought to the full committee so that everybody is aware of some of the ideas that came out. We need your feedback before we proceed, because we have to revisit some of these policies in our next meeting.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have to apologize in advance. I do need a little bit of time to just fill you guys in on some of this. I'm gonna start with the easiest one. So we're in section B right now, the policy subcommittee, or the policy manual. And the part that we're working on right now has to do with this committee, the organization of this committee and policies surrounding the roles and responsibilities of this committee. So the one that came up was policy regarding subcommittees. And we need to revise it because we currently list subcommittees that are irrelevant or no longer in use. And also, when you look at our listing of subcommittees, some of them are actually subcommittees, but many of them are liaisons.
Yeah.
So this needs to be
Yeah.
tweaked. But what we're not currently in compliance with is something in our policy, which states that the subcommittees have a chairperson, each have a chairperson, and that its members will be appointed by the committee chairperson, subject to approval by the committee. So we've never, in the time that I've served on this committee, subcommittees have never had chair people. I don't know, I mean, you're longer standing than I am, so.
I've never.
So that's in direct violation of a policy that we have. So the way that we see it is we can eliminate that from the policy. Or we can choose to implement that in our policy. And you know, we talked about why a subcommittee would need to have a chairperson. And it would basically be the role of that person would be establishing the meeting agenda and establishing the meeting dates. In addition to maybe reporting out to the whole school committee. For as long as we've been on the committee, that has been established by administration. But as Liz pointed out, you know, it really should be the reverse. It really should be the school committee that is generating that. So the first question goes out to all of you guys. How do you feel about the subcommittees? And truly, the only ones that I think it really applies to, and correct me if I'm wrong, are negotiations, finance, and policy. I feel like everything else is more of a liaison thing.
Wouldn't buildings and grounds be a subcommittee?
Buildings and grounds as well, yes, okay.
That's what I was.
And so,
Isn't ILT a subcommittee?
no,
it's
ILT
not.
is not, it is a liaison,
Wellness is liaison, special liaison, technology is liaison, the other ones are liaisons.
right?
Okay, so we have 6. Well, they're not even, I mean, the collaborative and the corporation's not really even a subcommittee, it's just an appointment.
Right,
So we've got 4.
so 4, yeah, so I'm seeing it as negotiations, finance, policy, and buildings and grounds. So the first question is, do you folks feel that it is important for each of those subcommittees, for the subcommittee to have a chairperson, whose role it would be to establish an agenda and create meeting times? And second question, if so, then should it be the committee chairperson that appoints the subcommittee chairperson, or should it be by mutual agreement of the members of that subcommittee?
If we don't have a chairman, that makes everybody easier. right,
Yeah,
of the
if
subcommittee.
it's not broken.
I guess here's,
right now.
I know that there are school districts out there that have massive numbers of committee members. I was talking with somebody that has 22 committee members in their school committee. Their subcommittees have 6, 7 members large. I think if you've got a group that large, that makes a lot more sense to have a subcommittee chairman. I mean, our subcommittees have at most 3.
Correct.
I mean, there's only 3 of us.
I'm okay with omitting a chair of a sub.
Yeah.
I don't, I mean,
Yeah,
since you
it's
guys,
making things more
since you
confusing.
guys have done it for, I mean, Ted,
Yeah.
you've never had, have we ever run into massive issues?
We've never had an issue at all. Subcommittees.
As far as,
Number of people. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a subcommittee chairman of 3.
Through, yeah, or 2. Yeah.
And sometimes you're
Yeah.
even lucky to get 3, so. I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean, because right now we've got, I mean, I'll take that 3rd spot on buildings and grounds, because they're only meeting like once a month or once every 2 months or something like that. But we've only got 2 on finance right now. There's Ted and myself. So if somebody wants to join that subcommittee, let me know and we can add you to that subcommittee. What's your thoughts, Pam?
So in part, I agree with you. However, I'm thinking bigger picture in terms of shifting responsibility, like who's boss kind of thing, right? So, you know, for as long as we can remember, the meeting times and the agenda has been established by administration, which basically means that it's the administration that is identifying priorities. So the argument is that, well, it really should be the school committee that is identifying priorities. And therefore, the ownership of meeting topics and coordinating meeting dates, it's really just a shifting of responsibilities. And again, you're absolutely correct. We are a very small district. So things we have to luxury of things doing.
I'm just trying to figure.
Meet that in the middle, I mean, that it makes sense what you're saying, that it should be a school committee responsibility and not administration, so is there a way to combine this without having a chairperson on each subcommittee? I mean, do we have that flexibility to change a policy in that manner? I mean.
Well, I mean, we have, that's why we're bringing it up now, because we're going through all of these, so if we're gonna make an adjustment, we make the adjustment. One option on the table is we remove the line that says
Correct.
subcommittees will have a chairman. One of the issue that Pam's bringing up is, okay, from an ownership perspective, right now. And see, I kind of look at the ones, at least finance, we've always looked at it from for the year and a half I've been on, a collaborative approach with respect to what's on the agenda, what's the best time for everybody to meet. The buildings and grounds meeting that I went to, being part of that subcommittee, I think it's gonna be great, but the agenda from that. Eric really had the vast majority of the items that he wanted, hey, guys, these are things that I need your help with. And this is the stuff that we've got on the agenda. If there's things that we have as school committee members want to have on the agenda, we can certainly add them. I mean, when you're saying the priorities, are you concerned that there are items that are not being brought up that should be brought up,
No,
or?
not at all.
Okay.
It's just part of a discussion that came up and Liz was just blown away that we didn't have subcommittee chair people, like it was unheard of to her. So,
Yes, but we're gonna shock the world and remove it.
you know, I mean.
That's part of another conversation too, which, you know, we can talk about after, but. I think, you know, being in negotiations. It's cut and dry, like it isn't, we're setting the agenda for a school contract, you know, like they are bargaining for. Their contract, so that's written out, like you, both sides are, you know, negotiating and bargaining. And then policy, with the exception of, I mean,
Right now, our
policy,
agenda is set
we're
for
going
future
through line by
meetings.
line, page by page, bullet by bullet. With the exception of people coming to us asking for a hat or whatever, you know what I mean, so that. My opinion is, I think it's not broken. That's just me, and I think omitting, having a chair and a sub. Is fine. That's just me personally, you know,
I'm in his. Also, when you get, now, the only time that I ever, that we really had a formal chair and, well, not even a formal, it was still loose, but it was when we went into the building project. It was, everything was so
so
massive.
something, yeah, if you have something of large scale, I can
Large
see.
scale, then you want to
Right.
break down, because we even had committees within.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got it, and that could be something, and I know it's already in there somewhere, that if you
Because you're
can have
bringing
a
people
special
from the
project.
outside in.
That we can, that the chair can assign a
Point.
very specific subcommittee or something like that, and we can identify certain people to be in charge of that, that'll report back to the school committee as whole.
I mean, we're not that massive. In other words, we don't have the manpower really to do all that. And to keep it loosey-goosey type of thing, actually, it works on our benefit.
Well, it makes it more fluid. I think as long as we continue to be working with administration in a collaborative way to set the dates and set the agendas. I think that solves that issue.
I mean, the dates as a whole, we all have to kind of work off each other and say, does Tuesday work for you? Does, you know, like, I think so, setting the dates. Because if they're set in stone, 9 times out of 10, I can't make it. Unless we
Yeah, I mean,
negotiate.
The challenge will be is if you flip that to the, where, okay, we have a subcommittee chairman. Subcommittee chairman's in charge of setting the dates, negotiate or reaching out to administrative, say, okay, here's what we want to have on the agenda. Honestly, I think that's just going to create more work than what we've got right now, because it seems to me like the people that we have in the roles on the administration side know what they want to be able to talk about, are able to easily communicate that with whoever's in those committees and indicate, okay, this is what we're looking to talk about ahead of time. I don't think I've ever gone to a subcommittee meeting where I don't know what we're going to talk about ahead of time. And if we've got items, and I've certainly done this in finance when Steve was here. Hey, look, let's get this building project on the finance committee. Oh, no problem, we'll do that. Can you bring this, get this gentleman from RJ to come? Yes, I can take care of that too. I think a lot of it is if we speak up, they're very responsive, right? Is anybody for having subcommittee chairmen?
Okay, awesome.
Answers
Good.
out.
So we just needed some direction on that.
But we also have to remove
these right here out of the policy because,
We did change them to liaisons there.
well,
The
Right.
thing is that the subcommittees and the liaisons are fluid over time.
Hmm.
And they don't need to be identified in policy.
The subcommittees don't,
no,
Correct.
So we do change them.
Why not
Even
call
though,
them
like the big-
representative?
like the big ones, like policy,
Yeah,
buildings
no.
and ground, they don't need to be in the.
Listed.
Oh, so how are they listed? Just,
So
there
they're-
are
they're
subcommittees.
listed in procedure, because we
That's
do have a school committee, like procedure.
yeah, you
Manual.
have to have policy, you have to have negotiations, you have to have finance.
Mhm.
Not everybody has buildings and grounds, that's
Mhm.
us.
Right.
Like in here, like this is in our policy that we have a school building committee. Well, guess what? We don't have a school building committee and that's in our policy. We have technology, well, that's a technology liaison.
Right.
We
have
used to have a
trans-
transportation when we had our
Right, right,
own,
right.
Yeah.
but like, see, this has changed over time. And it doesn't need to be in there at all. If you
Lists,
look
maybe
at-
we just have the, or what is,
so
what's
if
MASC,
you
it's
get to
nothing.
MASC, it doesn't have it at all,
Listed.
so that's it, right,
Yeah.
exactly, so that,
So
those
this
were
month
the,
we can have a transportation committee and next month we can.
Oh, no,
I know.
you guys can, I'm not. I'm glad we're out of.
No, that's, all right, well, that's
so,
good.
so just some things that we need to omit with from ours, and we can move on.
Okay,
Okay, so next one.
that was the easy one.
That was the easy one, yes. So the next one has to do with school committee organizational meeting.
Okay,
Okay, so you actually asked this question at the beginning of the meeting. So every spring, when all three towns have completed their elections, at the first school committee meeting following all three elections, we reorganize our committee. And we elect a chairperson and then a vice chair and a secretary. And basically, you know, policy spells out how it works. Basically, a nomination goes out and anybody can nominate for chairperson. It's a roll call majority vote. We're not looking to change the policy, although when we were reviewing this policy, it brought up an interesting conversation. And the rationale behind this can be taken the wrong way and shouldn't be. So for as long as I've been on this committee, what has happened is a chair is nominated, does a great job, is renominated, continues to do a great job, is renominated, continues to do a great job. And so we end up having long-standing chairmen, which is phenomenal because they've historically done a great job. But there are some unintended consequences that go along with that, that sometimes we don't think about. I'm sure you can attest to the fact that the job of a chairperson is hands down more involved than all of the rest of us.
absolutely.
And it is extremely more time consuming, but there's an enormous growth curve. And you end up seeing parts of being privy to more information.
Yeah.
And forming a different relationship with administration than other members of the committee. And so what happens is when you have a chairperson that's doing a great job, it leads to other people not wanting to step on their toes and therefore not wanting to step into that role, which limits best practice leadership skills. So in best practice leadership scenarios, you have more people seeking leadership roles and responsibilities, seeking that personal growth. And so what happens is you end up with the rest of the committee not striving for those leadership positions because they don't want to step on anybody's toes. Another unintended consequence is a perceived imbalance of power, where there's a lot of discussion that happen between the chair and the superintendent that the rest of the committee is not privy to. And so you can get a perceived imbalance of power amongst the committee
or most likely amongst the constituents,
Community,
our community
Right.
members, right? So something that was talked about that some other school committees do is to sort of impose a term limit almost on the chairperson. Now, the chairperson can change from year to year because they get nominated every, and if you're not happy with a chairperson, then you simply nominate somebody else. However, it is possible to encourage term limits so that you encourage more leadership among the committee and that other people are stepping into that role. Other people experience that personal growth, and then somebody else is given that opportunity. And if somebody is great, awesome, their time will come again.
and if nobody steps up, let's just say the term limit is 3 years. And it's time for a renomination or a new nomination. And nobody puts their name up or wants to be nominated, then that person stays in that position, you know. And the cat, like, it isn't like you're fired,
Right.
like your job is done, it's. Okay, it's, let's say, a 3-year window, and now we're gonna, somebody else, hey, wanna raise your hand? Yeah, I think I wanna give that a shot. We do a roll call vote, like Pam said, but if nobody is nominated or nobody wants to do it. Then I guess, you continue on, but at least it's, or that's me, or is it, do we say, okay, at 3 years you're done? And now.
Somebody has to step up to the plate.
What
Yeah,
other school?
I don't wanna
committees
say that.
Also, that's the danger that you've got. I think it's obviously, it's an interesting
What other school
conversation.
committees do, like, do they have term,
I
like,
don't,
ones like ours?
So
Small.
so Liz was going to, she said that some do, Liz was gonna get us a little bit more information. Because the truth of the matter is, some school committees, the mayor is always the
Yeah.
chair.
Right,
Westfield is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah, any city, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mayor,
Yeah.
The town government.
so it happens differently in
Yeah.
different districts, municipalities or different.
So
regional
in those
districts.
type of situations, is that where there's normally
There's
term limit?
rotation in the vice chair.
Vice chair, but not the
Right.
chair,
Correct.
We'll get to the
chair.
but that seems
See, I
ridiculous
think,
to me.
I don't think the concept that, I think the challenge that you would have. In smaller committees like ours
Right,
is. If you put a term limit in place, and I'm not opposed to it, it's if you put a term limit in place. You've only got 7 members. I don't know what everybody's schedule looks like. I don't know what everybody's availability is. I've got the ability and the wantingness, I guess, to sort of fill this role right now. You guys voted me into this role. Twice. That hopefully I'm doing a good job.
No, it's not a personal attack.
And I'm not taking it that way. By all means, I'm not taking it that way.
But
If-
what
if you-
number
if
of
you-
people-
If you put a term limit on that. Then. If you run, and you might be able to set it up like Pat said, look, maybe it's set for 3, maybe it's set for 5 years. I know Jen mentioned that the other day. 5 maybe.
1 year is not, to me, 1 year.
One is great. It's 3 may be right. I mean, look,
3 or
it's.
4, like.
And if nobody else wants to step into that role, then now the floor is open to a brand new sort of entrance. And I mean, there's a way
I mean,
to.
the floor is open every year.
No, understood.
The floor is open every year.
Opportunity
Yeah.
to nominate, so it's not,
Absolutely.
okay,
Right.
It is
So
not,
it's-
it's just saying
the
that,
door's open.
you know what?
Everybody do it once for the next 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. The idea for imposing the limit would really be to kind of force other people to step up, really.
Yeah.
So that people would experience what it means to be a chair, really. And listen, I'm not saying this because I want the job. I've turned it down before,
No, it's, and I think the whole concept of, look, give people opportunities for growth and for leadership opportunities, I mean, it's. That makes a lot more sense in a corporate structure world to me than an elected office like this. Especially if you're dealing with a small group of people like we have. I think if you're dealing with Wachusett and they've got 22 members on their committee, I think it's a lot, it's a lot safer for you to go, look, we're gonna do a term limit of 3 years for the chairman. So we give an update. You would think with 22 people, you got more than one person that's got time to be able to do it. I think when you get down to smaller numbers, it gets a little bit tougher. With timeframes, flexibility, somebody having time to do it, and if somebody wants to be able to step up and do it, that's fine. I mean, that's why we've got the reorganization meeting in the first meeting after all the town meetings anyway. I don't know, I think there's a dual-edged sword on that. I think it's tricky.
Yeah, but what, in my experience on this is turnover. You know.
It's gonna solve that anyway.
You could be voted out of office.
Yeah.
And, you know, you could be the greatest chair in the world.
Yeah.
You get voted out by your, by, you know,
Yeah.
Southwick.
By the time,
That's the end of it.
yeah,
It's not the same, it's not like we're a city.
Hmm.
Where there's no turnover. You know, on. the
well, I mean, I
outside.
think this committee itself is a perfect example where 5 or 4 out of the 7, I mean,
Which brings me to the next one, if you guys are giving me the green light to go on.
Yes.
Is the general consensus that no, we're not interested in imposing term limits, we like the reorganization, the way it works, and we're good with it.
yeah, I mean,
Okay,
okay,
okay, so that brings me to the next one.
so that's funny. Are these in levels of difficulty?
Policy meeting.
This is a great meeting, Ron. This is a great meeting.
Flawed.
Oh,
City, we'll
okay,
say.
all right, so there's a-
Yes, that noise that you made though was.
All right, so what's the next one?
So restructurings in June.
Dude, yeah. Yeah, but you can do that then too. What's up?
Okay, so you guys were mentioning all the turnover that we've had recently.
Yeah.
So there is a policy that is related to, that is titled unexpired term fulfillment / vacancies. And this talks about what happens when we end up with a vacancy midterm. So, and this has happened a lot to us within recent years. Somebody
Recent years, as long
moved,
as I've been on it, it's a.
Okay.
so somebody moves out of town, you end up with a vacancy.
Aren't those policies set by the regional agreement though?
So this is where it gets fuzzy, yes. Okay.
Because there's a very specific
There
guideline
is.
as to what each one of these towns do when there is a vacancy
Yeah,
of
she's gonna
somebody
retire,
retired.
because that's what we talked.
Yes, okay, and there might even be language in town bylaws regarding this. And because we're made of 3 towns, the 3 town bylaws may be different. So this gets out of the realm of just policy.
Yeah.
And this gets into the realm of a little bit more complexity with regard to legal and regional agreement. Okay? But the way that it works right now is if we have a vacancy, then the position is appointed. Okay,
Yeah.
and in the small towns, it is appointed by the select board. But in the town of Southwick, it is appointed by jointly the select board and the remaining members of the Southwick committee.
Yeah, which usually
And-
gives us 7.
Right, and where the discussion came in is because that person, once they're appointed, then fills the balance of the unexpired term.
Yeah.
Okay, which could be a few months, could be 1 year, could be 2 years, could be 3 years.
Yeah.
And so there was discussion about whether or not that policy is true to the philosophy of elected officials. And that if you are appointed and filling an extended term, so beyond a year,
So like me, newly appointed,
Yeah,
3
3
term,
years,
yeah.
right? Should the policy be changed, and this would require some legal digging. And it would require potentially amending the regional agreement. which is within our purview. But should we consider creating some language about how long that appointed person is filling the appointed role? And then should there be an election or a special?
That's how I do it.
I think that is opening up, not necessarily Pandora's box, but the challenge that you've got to remember is that the reason that the seats are up for elections in certain years is to make sure that there's not more than 3 seats that are up for election in any one calendar year. The seat that I'm in, Ted's and yours, all 3 of us are always up. Whoever's in these seats are always up the same year. Then there are 2 people that are up in Southwick the following year. Then there are 2 people up in Southwick the year after that. The policy that's in there, the way that these things are appointed are, you've got, especially in Southwick, you've got an interview process that goes on. You've got a joint meeting between the select board and the remaining members of the committee that go through, and there's usually going to be 7 votes there for that. And that is outlined by that regional agreement as to how those positions are filled.
So I agree with that, and I agree with.
I think
the
messing with that is going to
importance.
create a whole
I
big
totally
problem
agree.
with very limited success. The only thing that you could do would be, okay, somebody gets appointed till the next electoral cycle and then they're elected. Well, the problem is now that position is very specifically set up for 3 years. So
Couldn't, but I.
But other districts go to vote. They might
Community
say
2 years.
the position is filled for 6 months or however long.
and then you're gonna have an election in order to
Right.
fill the remaining of the.
Yeah.
They
Without
call the
messing
special-
with, exactly,
Okay,
it's
fair.
very important that you not mess with the stagger.
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah,
election.
But so the special,
But
so
that,
he's in this role for 3 years, I'm not using your
Yeah.
example. How would a special, when would that special election happen?
It's in between a normal election time period. So like, in other
So
words,
not-
if we vote every November for something or every May
Well, we do May
or something,
Right,
right, so it would be,
They're up in May.
right. What they're saying is that, okay, if we did this, if you were to look at this. Potentially Desiree's position would be up for an election this
Okay,
May,
okay.
and that would only be for a 2-year term.
Exactly.
not a 3-year term.
Exactly,
so the community votes.
So
like
let me
for
just say,
the
as the person appointed,
right.
coming on for a few months, why? You know, if,
Yeah.
in that,
Because then in an election, that's your platform. That's, hey, I've earned I've spent 6 months on this committee. I've learned the ropes for 6 months.
Right.
And that's, in the election, you can then say to the voting public, I have the experience. I can be challenged.
interest
Well,
from the
his-
community.
I agree.
My point is, I think I was the only
Yeah.
person.
Correct.
So it's like,
And the same thing's true for elections, okay?
Yeah, I would say
So on election.
So did.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I still feel that it should be considered in the spirit of the democratic process.
I agree with you.
I think
I
that's,
see what you're saying now, like it makes sense to
If the
me.
community is elected a position and not being.
I think this would be
elected
something that the towns are gonna wanna be, if this,
The talent,
the towns are gonna, this is going to be.
it's just a policy we're trying to balance, that's all, just trying to get through one more bullet. Not saying we're changing it, it's just a discussion that Liz.
I think even contemplating changing it opens up 5 other things that you'd have to deal with. That would be something that we could do on our own, because especially from the Southwick side of it. I mean, you're involving a joint meeting between Southwick and the school district. In order to do that, it's in the regional agreement. In order to make changes to a regional agreement, there's specific things that have to be done with all 3 towns approving it. You've got 2 different ways of these appointments being done. I mean, are we trying to fix something that's not broken, or are we saying that it is broken?
you could be opening a Pandora's box.
I mean, it's, and I don't know the history. How many, I mean, obviously, we've got 3 people that are currently on the committee that have been appointed. Is that
Right, but
something
yeah, well,
from,
how
No,
it-
no, but had been appointed, Pat was originally appointed,
Also,
Aaron,
then elected.
yeah.
Right.
Is this something historically has happened a lot?
So in my.
I know Maria was appointed and then lost an election.
So usually,
No, Maria left.
she
I don't know,
left,
but
yeah.
did she,
Maybe.
Chelsea got,
but
Yeah.
Chelsea
Different.
beat Maria. Because Chelsea and Maria were running for election and,
Oh, so-
and
okay. And then Maria came back,
Yeah.
yes, Maria was
elected
appointed.
on.
I think that what, I think, and this is just like, what happened was Jonathan ran.
Yep.
And he got elected for a 3-year term, and
Yep.
within 2 weeks,
He left.
he left.
Yep.
People did not,
I didn't realize.
that
that.
didn't
Yeah.
go well in the community, it didn't at all, yeah, there was talk about that, and,
so
it,
I
the
would like to,
perception
like,
of it, yeah.
kind of adopt a section to that.
Oh, no. I can like,
Yeah.
relate to the example,
No.
of what you're saying, like,
That's-
and that's what
yeah.
I'm saying, like, if it's somebody coming in for just, short term. Do you want the turnover?
Right. Like when Maria left, she moved out of the district, people were like,
Got this.
okay,
Okay, get that.
yeah.
Right.
But the way that Jonathan left was not,
Yes, well,
it didn't sit well with a lot of people. Right.
So I guess full transparency and honesty,
Yeah.
if you're on the committee and you know you're gonna move, or you know your job is changing and you know you just can't commit your time. And an election is around the corner. I think honesty is the best policy.
and it's not like that has ever happened before.
I'm not saying that any of that
Has
happened,
it?
I'm just saying moving forward, if we have anybody
Right.
here that knows they're gonna,
Hopefully that was a.
move on or, or.
And this was not
Right.
something that Jonathan had,
Right,
it's set up.
I'm not saying that he did, I'm not saying any of that, it was presented. During this section of the policy meeting. And it's happened in other areas and.
In other, what do you mean, other districts?
Other districts where this has happened. And, thank God for Liz, because she was able to kind of clarify that. Southwick was not, unique. To that, and that, we just want our community to understand that, we're in it for the right reasons.
Right. And she just offered this as something that other districts do.
Yeah,
And so.
Yeah, but
it
other
was-
districts are not regional districts,
well.
right?
what if
I
we
mean,
are?
you can create, but, well, no, I know, but the regional agreement creates a whole different layer. If you're in, if you're in just a town. And they have somebody that resigns. It's a lot easier for them to deal with this, they're only dealing with one town. We open this up to change that piece.
That's gonna be confusing.
I don't see any major benefit coming from fixing that right now. Now, if we wanna break that I think needs to go back to the towns. You need to have conversations at the town level. And the thing is, from the regional agreement side, if all 3 towns don't agree to changing that, it doesn't change.
And we
So
don't
is
have
there a
anybody-
different way to, this was a suggestion from Liz. So,
Well,
which
okay, it's a
I
suggestion,
felt
it
like I
doesn't mean we
needed to
need to
bring
follow
to
it.
you.
Yeah,
guys.
No,
but it brought a lot of focus, we spoke about this for probably 30 minutes.
Is there a different way to deter what happened then from happening?
And we're not saying there's any malice, like,
Okay, so before we go and spend 8 years trying to figure this out, I mean, how many times in the last 50 years has something like that happened? Does this,
Right.
or not even that, how long have we had the regional agreement?
2011.
Okay, so if we had anything like that happen? Where somebody coincidentally, timing wise,
Well, there's a-
resigned after they got
There's a piece
elected?
that nobody's talking about
Yeah.
either. Nobody else wanted the position.
Yeah,
It
but other
wasn't
people-
like
you
people
ran,
were-
or you were appointed against the.
Yeah,
I was?
Yeah.
cousin.
Oh, yeah, my cousin.
Multiple.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
It just so happened this time.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, your cousin and
Shoot.
Chelsea, right?
Yeah.
Where was he from?
Was appointed on the post. but-
And it was
Right.
right after he got elected?
Right, then I was here a couple months, before school began, we didn't make it to the summer
No.
retreat.
Yep.
That's right.
No.
I mean, I don't know. I think this one's gonna require a lot more conversation, a lot more people involved with it. If we want to, as a committee, look at that. I'm not saying it's not worth looking at. I'm saying that is a whole different level of complexity.
I agree.
And it's gonna involve the select boards from all three towns to figure out whether they want to deal with something that is happening once in a blue moon. I mean, I don't know whether it's worth it, but
Yeah, because we're stuck at that page. We can move beyond it and.
well, I say we as a policy subcommittee can always put a policy back up for review. I mean, if this one is got, I mean, we've got so much work we've got to do right now, trying to look at all of them.
Yeah.
I don't think this policy is the one worth trying to figure out what you want to change on it.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with three towns, regional agreement, I mean, it's gonna be,
That's a lot of
explanation. You got two towns that only have one,
yeah.
and
And how many times, and you've gone unopposed, I mean, if Ted ever. Resign, okay,
if I.
they're gonna have to,
They're going to.
right, I mean, it's,
Because nobody.
And then
wants
there
the
was
job.
none.
I mean. What happened in my case was. The guy quit. I was at a cocktail party.
then you left being the school committee representative.
The selectman, the head, the head selectman comes up to me and says,
You came in a
why
shackles.
don't you, you're gonna remain young. It's just, and I said, I could probably do this. And also that night I became.
Yeah.
There were 4 jobs.
What were you drinking?
I wasn't drinking anything. But I mean, and I've been on now for 22 years. I mean,
Yeah,
so I mean, and that's,
But you've been elected and reelected and reelected.
yeah, but wait, I couldn't get my name off the bat.
So opposed or unopposed, the
Yeah.
spirit of democracy.
The community
is
decided
preserved.
that you were the best candidate for the job.
Right, and I just think that it's important that we
But
remember.
I don't feel that.
Well, it's a whole other topic.
I don't think this is subverting the spirit of democracy by setting up an appointment process for somebody that resigns in between their terms. And I think if it was, somebody set it up this way for a reason. And it's a legit reason. and
Should
it's-
be here, absolutely.
So I mean, I think we're, if you guys already spent a half hour talking about this in the policy subcommittee. We've spent a half hour tonight
Correct.
trying to talk about something that, in my opinion. This is not gonna be an easy thing. I say we punt this in this look. And if we want to revisit this, I think it's a great idea to revisit it, but I mean, we're gonna need to have a lot more input from members of the select boards from all three towns. I just,
Excellent. Well, we just needed this because there was discussion on all three of these policies in the spirit of transparency and the importance of giving us direction as we move forward, and the amount of input that Liz had. We felt that it was important that we go back to you and talk about it and get everybody's opinion. So I appreciate everybody's opinion and taking the time to listen. So thank you.
super. Is there a tougher one?
That's it.
I'm waiting for the purple one to
No,
come
no,
flying in.
those are all my sticky notes.
You know, she's pink, they were getting, all
Maybe that's just.
right.
Yeah, that was a good job,
Back to where we were, buildings and grounds, do we have anything for,
I don't think so.
we've got to.
No, but we'll share with Eric.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah,
Going
we're able to
forward.
move forward now, so if he's listening, which he usually is, so he'll be happy at that. ILT, you guys had a meeting today, right?
I did. Anyone want to take chat GTP on?
On Zoom. what, so they talked about was it an app that Microsoft concocted that they were supposed to attach to like their Outlook and Word and PowerPoint where this. You can put in, let's say, for instance, you're supposed to be making a presentation on a topic of some sort. And it will pull from like a million different sources of the internet, all this information about it. But students have figured out how to use it. And it's creating some issues.
Write me a paper on the Civil War and why
Analogy of
the
a
South
tadpole or
should have won.
So it's basically artificial intelligence evolution of Google.
And so like New York has had an issue with it already, has already banned it, but the topic was like how you couldn't possibly probably, how can you ban it if you wouldn't know that a student's used it? Because it's not like you can just Google a sentence and it pops up. But Jenny actually put it in a different light of just, which was interesting. We need, so Aaron actually said that, use the analogy of, back when we were on school, we all had to memorize multiplication tables, right? And I remember doing this, I don't understand why kids still don't, but it's fine. But our teachers couldn't fathom a world where we didn't have a calculator at our fingertips. Didn't you always get told you need to know this because you won't have a calculator? Well, except you
Guess
do.
what?
So we have to now think of the world that our kids are going to be growing into, not the world that we're now in and like used to. This program is gonna be on everyone.
So a world that's
Forever.
increasingly going to be dominated by artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like,
And
the way we're
so
moving.
exactly, and artificial, depending on how techie the rest of you guys are, artificial intelligence infiltrates all aspects of our life. And it's going to become the next iPhone in terms of technology. And so Ben was just kind of making us aware of how this particular app, and there will be, I am sure, many more
I
to
feel like
follow.
Google's already trying.
Oh, exactly, of how this particular app, which is endorsed and given tons of money by Microsoft, has and will affect the world of education, both in good and bad.
Because there's programs that the teachers can use, right? If they've got a paper that's,
Kids have to
Submit
submit
it.
it on
they
something.
have to submit it online or submit it to the teacher so that they can go through and figure out if it's plagiarism, right?
Right.
So it's not picking it up. Okay.
Yeah.
So now every one of the kids, the 0 of them that are watching our meeting are going, no, you just don't do that.
Yeah, exactly, what's that app?
Secret, yeah, what's
I
the
didn't say what it was.
My son knew about it. They had it, kids knew about it.
The kids
now.
probably already know about it.
I need to know
I'm saying.
So as soon as I got off the meeting, I was like, I'm gonna check this out, see how it works,
Yeah.
right? So, I went, Ben provided us with the link, right? And I went to go check it out and to try playing around with it, as Ben had done in front of us on Zoom in the meeting. Turns out that my district, I was on the district network and it
Oh.
So I was, in one sense
So
disappointed.
you as
because I
a
wasn't
teacher
able to-
can't use it, but the kids that are at home on their own networks can't.
I tried it on my phone.
No, I understand.
Too, but I wasn't gonna, I was sort of pleasantly surprised that my district
there's
was
no-
blocked. It was sort
There's
of
no
like-
sense in blocking it because they're gonna be able to get it.
They're gonna
They
get it
just-
on.
As my daughter's told me now, you can just use one of those VPN networks and you can pretend that you're from India. So
I need the
We're gonna have to
intro
go
to
back
computer class that they're doing.
To teaching cursive, and they're gonna have to write their darn report.
Oh my God.
So my kids do talk cursive.
They do?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
My oldest
My
one
kids
started
Wow.
like third grade or, I don't know.
So
My
what's the-
older kids are already learning. this.
See, someone already got
The
that
take-home message?
resolution.
So what was the
Take home
gist of it?
message.
Are we gonna ban it?
No,
No,
that was not what Jenny and Ben were advocating for. The take-home message was that we just need to keep in mind that we are preparing our students for a world that's very different from what we have known. And that we need to continue to emphasize critical thinking and skills that cannot be replaced by a
Oh, you're
robot.
So having a debate, having like something where, because I'm assuming that the whole concept of writing a paper on something is for you as a student to go redo the research, get the understanding, write the support or the argument of argument.
basis, critical thinking that.
So now if they can do it on their own, okay, great, you still need to use that information and apply it, so. Let's go into a debate and we're gonna talk about everything that you just gave me a
They said
paper
they
on.
could
and we
use
need to show
this
that
as
you've got
like a
understanding.
first draft of your paper, then go back in and like edit stuff, add in your own twist on something, by opinions. if
And a
that's the-
thought
the
that I had in
process.
listening to it that I didn't say at the meeting was that, yes, technology is more and more replacing things that we used to do and is automating so much. But what it's not yet replacing is interpersonal relationships and the way that we speak to each other, the way that we work
So
together.
debate.
And exactly, and like I think as educators, that's what we need to be fostering.
Public speaking, debates on stage, so that way they can actually show that they've
Problem
got.
solving, working together. Yep. Right.
Great.
Yeah, that was.
So anyway, that was today's
Well,
meeting.
that was fun.
Wow, it was
You've
interesting.
got all
It was
the
very
updates, don't you?
informative.
This meeting is informative.
So what's the?
So,
I see it, I missed
we'll
it.
do it
I thought
offline.
you took a screenshot.
All right, wellness,
Next week.
Next week,
okay, sped,
not, I don't know.
I
We
don't have anything
set
set
up.
No.
Rob's not
Technology.
gonna be busy.
next week.
John,
Or no, tomorrow, technology tomorrow.
Yes.
capital committee, master plan, hiatus,
No, master plan, we met last week and we're meeting again next week, moving forward and probably gonna wrap up in June. For the entirety of the,
program.
plan, yeah.
So is it something that gets voted on by the town or?
No, this committee is basically rewriting we have input from town members who have. Taken the time to fill out the survey and then give us, we have a lot of. Input and feedback and, some good, some really no change and. So,
Where does it
Yeah.
get? Like the selectmen, like where does it then go?
Yeah, like what goes
Master
after you guys,
Yeah.
I'm assuming if
Yeah,
it's gonna
so
get
it's-
implemented, it
What's
gets
the-
voted on by the town, right?
no, it doesn't.
It doesn't require a town vote to put in the master plan into process.
No, it just requires town participation, right?
Right, it is, I can get the exact,
The way they described it is that they tried to do this some years ago and it didn't go anywhere.
they couldn't formulate a committee,
Oh, so they couldn't even get the committee together.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Freezing, all just having.
Turn off the heat. Jen.
When my blood sugar goes down, I get cold too.
I already-
I have to go to hockey in less than 5 minutes.
So we're gonna be hopefully done before then. Athletics, we haven't had a meeting. I'm sure we'll have in the next couple of weeks. Legislative, we're gonna wait till next year on that. Public comment, there's nobody else here in the well, so there's no public comment. Committee discussion, old business, we've got nothing, new business. We've got just an adjustment that I'm gonna recommend. I talked to the superintendent about this. I don't know why, normally we take care of this at our retreat. But right now, we have on tap a meeting on the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday of February and April. The third Tuesday of February and April are school vacation weeks. So what I propose is what we did last year is we scrapped the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday, and we do the second Tuesday for February and April.
Happy Valentine's
Valentine's
Day.
Day.
So I've got a
To a work
bunch
like-
of meetings, wait a minute, what's going on here? PD can. Spencer.
Won't be there either.
All right, I can do.
I can tell you,
What about the second Tuesday in April?
it's our next Tuesday, 12:30.
Yes.
Here.
12:30, next
I can do
Tuesday.
that one.
17.
Okay,
Good, the 11th.
is anybody got a challenge? I don't think we need to take a vote on this. We just consensus here around the table. Are we okay with the second Tuesday of February and April in lieu of the first and third? We're gonna cancel both. We're gonna put a meeting on the agenda for, on the calendar for the second Tuesday of February, which is February 14th, and the second Tuesday of April.
So my only question is, does that slow anything down with regard to budget approval process?
No,
Yeah, no, because the
No.
finance subcommittee meeting is
Yeah.
16th.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
March, is that calendar?
Yeah.
It's written down in March.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we
I'm
gotta-
gonna change that in my
We
calendar
gotta have it
right
done.
now.
We have 3 meetings in March?
There's-
Well,
Oh, because of the budget presentation.
Yeah.
Have one.
Yeah,
No, okay, I'm worried, do we have enough time?
Oh, we better.
well, if we need more subcommittee meetings, Ted, we
I'm
can,
just,
yeah,
yeah, we can schedule them time.
yeah,
So now it's equal.
I'm still optimistic.
we'll be all right. Figure a way to get the widgets to work. All right, so without any other items, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Can I get a show of hands for adjournment? Aaron, let the record show the motion passes 7-0. Good night, everybody. Thank you for your time.
See,
Right now before.